It's Mon Mothma's HoloNet. We're just posting on it. Welcome back to Mothmanet News and our 50-day countdown to Andor Season 2. Today's guest, can you please introduce yourself and our topic for today?
Hi everyone, I'm Matthew, and I can follow me usually on the Iron Cannon podcast and others. We're talking all about the Death Star, the big floating non-moon in the sky. That
Forbidden Gumball.
Yeah, that thing, the Forbidden Gumball. That goes all the way back. Its history goes all the way back, probably before the Clone Wars, but to the Clone Wars, and all the way to a little film called The New Hope. And then another little film called Return of the Jedi, and along the way, of course, Rogue One and
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. Yeah, it goes back to Attack of the Clones.
Pogger
the Lesser. Pogger the Lesser.
Poggle the Lesser is part of it, and it also comes up a lot in Rebels as well. The Death Star, freaky space station moon thing that's floating. The Alderaan had a moon for a day, and we all saw how that ended for them. The moon will kill you. That is what we should learn from the Death Star.
Clearly, that's the lesson.
Yeah. The moon is actually giving us cancer. Somehow. No, right-wing pundits, please do not pick up on that.
We don't actually believe that. We don't actually believe that.
That is a joke. The only time the moon will kill you is if you go on its surface without sufficient equipment, or if it's the Death Star.
Yes, if it has a Kyber-powered super laser.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go.
So, the Death Star, let's just be real. It's kind of fucked up that they made that in the first place.
It's a good symbol of authoritarian overreach.
Me speaking against the Death Star while wearing my Tarkin Initiative shirt is very on brand. But I am still Ellie and Zara at my core, and Tarkin is my dad.
Oh yeah,
Let's just.
I mean, Project Stardust. It's a great name.
It is.
There we go. Nice.
Yeah.
So I'll say I'm fascinated by this topic and interested in it, in part because I'm resident prequelist, #prequelist. I literally have the T-shirt. So as you mentioned, it goes all the way back to Attack of the Clones story, and of course, you and I are both big paper cannon fans here. So the story gets picked up in a novel Catalyst. I know you did an episode on Catalyst already, but hopefully not retreading too much from that.
That's fair.
But,
we talked a lot more about Galen and Krennic's relationship.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. So the fascinating way that the Death Star, at least with James Luceno, and even that moment in Attack of the Clones, bridging the trilogies, bridging the saga. So it moves it forward. I mean, in a way, it goes all the way back to the Lucre Hulks, right? I mean, there's this spherical little thing in the middle. I don't think that was an accident that both the Separatists in the universe and George Lucas and Doug Chiang saying, "Hey, here's a circle, here's a ball. That means bad guy." A little bit. So, and then it goes through paper cannon and Catalyst in Thrawn. There's a little bit of implied references that we can get into there. And also fascinating contrast with, say, so you have the Tarkin Doctrine, with the Tag Doctrine, what it represents as this rule through fear, as opposed to, say, the Tag Doctrine is it's still an authoritarian rule through actual being present and able to mobilize your Star Destroyers everywhere. So from the Kieran Gillen Darth Vader comic in 2015. So it has its presence is felt and reverberates throughout, and then of course it's the implications of it going explode. In that for example, in that the 2015 ongoing comic with Darth Vader and Luke. Well, both comics with Vader and Luke and Vader trying to figure out who this kid is who blew up the Death Star.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's his son. And that brings us to one of the great moments in all of paper canon of that crossover moment. So yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and it's one that has a lot of in-universe and out-of-universe salience. So I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, I think that it was very interesting. Because Rogue One, we know how Cassian meets his fate. Spoiler alert, he drowned. But because of the Death Star, essentially. That is what causes his death, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also what causes Krennic's death, Jin's death, so many deaths. Krennic, dude, you rode so hard for this thing, and now it kills you. Deserved. But I think the way that they brought it into season 1 of Andor was really interesting, because the entire time they're on Narkina 5, we're like, what the fuck are they making?
Yeah.
And then we get that post-credit scene, and we're like, oh no. And so you have this thing where it's just like, these people built the means of their own destruction, right? And you have so many people who I guess misunderstand the economics and labor practices of the building of the Death Star, because again, you can be like, oh well, it's a joke, but people are like, oh well, I mean, they were creating jobs and all this, and I'm just like, slave labor is not the creation of jobs. And I don't know why we have to keep telling you this, right? Because even in Legends as well, they used Wookiee slave labor. They were using human slave labor on Narkina 5 in canon. We know that slave labor built the Death Star, right? And that's just how many people were enslaved by the Empire only to essentially build the demise of not just themselves as an individual, but maybe the cause that they believed in, right?
In terms of as in the way it was used to crush rebellions and scare planets. That's fascinating. I mean, definitely the way that those episodes are filmed, right? It's very much from Cassian's perspective of I'm just here. I just got arrested on Space Miami, and what am I doing here? And then you get thrown in, and then you just gotta put this machine thing together, this octagon, whatever the pentagon thing, not having a clue what it is, right? And it's so hard to tell from the actual thing. I know people speculated, it's part of the Death Star, but there's nothing in the actual show that tells us that. So that kind of the intentional ignorance, the thing about which philosopher was it? The early 20th century philosopher had the idea of the panopticon, where there's a central authority that can see everything. I think it's early 20th century, maybe late 19th century. You can see everything, but as a means of control, you can both see everything but also isolate everyone else. And
I am going to Google.
Panopticon, Google that. And that's very,
was it Jeremy Bentham in the 18th century?
I think it's late. I think the philosopher who developed
the design of institutional building with an inbuilt system of control originated by the English philosopher and social theorist Jeremy Bentham in the 18th century.
So he might have developed it in a good way. I think there's a later philosopher that critiques it. We're bringing philosophy into this.
It's Star Wars. You're supposed to bring philosophy into it.
And it's me, so wait till I get to theology. No, I'm just kidding. And you're right. It really underscores, thinking about what Nemec is saying about revolutions and about the way an authoritarian government maintains its grip on power. It requires people to participate in their own destruction. It makes me think it's a great metaphor for
Mhm.
great, as in such a terrible thing, but false consciousness, right?
Yeah,
That,
and I
you know,
think.
folks, so good.
Oh, go on.
I was
Finish.
saying, you know, how folks are all they're working their menial dead end jobs. They're not necessarily literal slaves, but they're working their menial dead end jobs. But they're sold on this idea of, if only I just work hard enough, and you know, work at night, make ends meet, then I'll be able to make it. You know, with my get that multi-figure salary and the 2.5 kids in the suburbs, 2 cars or whatever that I dream of. You know, the
Yeah.
American dream, and so they end up voting for and paying for, voting with their wallets, this system that definitely does keep them in their menial jobs, right? And
Yeah.
with you know, making them, when we're thinking primarily, I mean, it's true here in Canada, but also definitely in our friends to the south of us, you know, that,
Yeah.
you know, keeping you in, you know, the fact that they don't have universal health care, and so that so
Mhm.
much of their money has to go into health insurance, but also it gets denied. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely makes me think of, yeah, that system. And so, yeah, 1905,
Mhm.
great metaphor, great allegory for all that.
Yeah. And I think something like the Death Star also goes into the idea of like fascism and all of the things that go along with it being so unnatural. And
Mhm.
it has to constantly be in your face. And it has to, control everything. And it needs to keep doing these things in order to maintain that control.
Mhm.
And the Death Star is a massive means of control.
Yeah.
Right. There's a reason that in A New Hope, Tarkin, even after Leia's like, the rebels are on Dantooine, he's like, you know what? Dantooine, not going to be a good enough demonstration. We're going to blow up Alderaan. We're going to blow up a peaceful planet with 2 billion people on it. And this is to,
Mhm.
scare everyone,
Yeah.
right? Because Alderaan had not been an active threat to the Empire.
Mhm.
Because, again, most of the things that they were doing were very, like they were doing good things,
Yeah.
but their standing against the Empire wasn't similar to, say, Saw Gerrera's,
Sure.
right? And they took out Jeddah, right? They took out Jeddah City, Saw Gerrera and his partisans, or so
Mhm.
they thought. There are several that managed to survive, as we learn in the 2015 Star Wars comic run.
Mhm.
But, it was just like, you can't take up arms against us, and you can't even peacefully protest
Right.
without us literally committing genocide against you.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? And, this is going to sound crazy. I wish the money that had gone to the Death Star had gone to the TIE Defender project instead. Like,
whose idea was that? Whose thought was that?
Thrawn's.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it feels more small scale, and we know that a singular TIE fighter of any type can strike fear in the heart of somebody who's not even doing something wrong. Okay? Okay, the rebels on Aldhani were doing active rebellion preparation, but they felt it. Like, that TIE fighter went by and you could sense the fear from every single one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it, right? Power doesn't panic, and oppression is the mask of fear. Those are two of the most important things that we should be taking from Andor and the lessons that we can learn about the Death Star, because that is just overcompensating on a massive scale for running a shit government that nobody likes,
Yeah. I mean, well, the problem is some people liked it.
Yeah.
Enough people liked it. But also, to be fair, Alderaan, they were funding ships and weapons.
True, but like, officially they were very pacifist as well.
Yeah, Leia's like, it's a consulship. I'm the ambassador. I'm the junior senator. What do you want, Vader? We're fine. You're a part of the Rebel Alliance. I'm a traitor. So they know. But this gets to the other side of it. That is also, again, really, really interesting and really important, and it's something that George is clearly saying is that, well, also Nemec is saying this, right? That massive overcompensation, the grand gesture, is also the instrument of the Empire's demise in both Death Stars, right? Because not only did they do it once, and they try and do it again.
Yeah.
And on that second time, Sheev himself goes to that Death Star. Like, I'll be fine. It'll be fine. And of course, Luke says, your arrogance is your weakness.
Yeah. Similar to Tarkin, I would say.
Yeah, Tarkin. Yeah,
there is material that like it's like, hey, it was suggested that he evacuate and he didn't.
Well, yeah.
And
our moment of triumph. What? And so that gets to with Thrawn, in I think it's the first canon novel. He's detecting all these shipments of Dunium to the central location, and he's all, well, that's weird. Why is there so much Dunium going to this? Why are we consolidating our resources like this on this one massive project, whatever it is? Oh, then he figures it out, whatever it is. Right, it's this massive Death Star that is, again, the rule through fear, whereas the TIE Defender, or millions of TIE Defenders and thousands of thousands of Star Destroyers could actually ensure that they have an empire that actually brings everyone in line. It would have been a better strategy. It'd be a more natural strategy. It's something the First Order does ultimately try to do, at least a little bit for Last Jedi, not with Force Awakens, but ultimately they do end up trying that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, so the thing is with this one massive resource, you sink all of it into it, and if that goes south, then that can go a long way, at least, to crippling the Imperial economy, which is what happens. And then, of course, more symbolically, literally, in Return of the Jedi and the second Death Star.
Yeah.
So that's Nemec saying, every authoritarian government has the seeds of its own destruction because it's unnatural, and that it also requires these massive gestures to prop itself up, right? These kind of bread and circuses, if you will, both bread and circuses of kind of bland entertainments, and sometimes Star Wars can be a bread and circus, but hopefully not. But also the big spectacle of a Death Star, or of, I'm trying to think, this little hat we can wear, this red hat that we can wear, or executive orders that are doing damage. They are, but
or even like slogans.
Yeah.
When your entire thing is just about catchy little slogans and your little rhymes, because that can also do a lot, right? And again, that just feeds into more of the ideas about, like, I hate to say it, Thrawn was right. Right? And it kind of goes into, why was the Empire throwing so much at this one thing? And why were they so willing to do that again when the first one didn't work out? Right? And then the First Order goes and does it again, but with an entire planet, and now Ilum's gone, right? And I have so many questions about various things, because a lot of this is just science rambling, but like tides on Alderaan, what happened to those when the Death Star appeared? Did the tides react as if that was an actual moon? I don't know. What happened to the gravitational pull of all the worlds near Alderaan when Alderaan was destroyed? Because that is a like planet. That's not, a little asteroid being destroyed. That is a gravitational force in and of itself. Right? And I feel like the absolute damage that it did, that the Death Stars and the and Starkiller Base did to the galaxy as a whole is something that's very difficult to recover from, right? Starkiller Base took out the entire Hosnian system. And, you know, the second Death Star had a list of planets that it was going to take out. Chandrila, Mon Cala were just two of them, right? But, you know, you could, like, the Empire can start and be like, oh, yeah, we're just going to tax you more heavily if you've got, like, rebel activity. And then 5 years later, they're like, actually, we will blow up your freaking planet if you don't bow down to us. And that is just terrifying. Because, you know, thankfully, in our real world, we don't necessarily have that power, but we have something else that can completely devastate the planet or a very, like, rather large area of, like, land. We have freaking nukes, right? And it's just like, I look at some of the technology that we have, and I'm like, do we really need that? I don't think so. I do not think that weapons of mass destruction are necessary, and that is what the Death Star is. Because they just feel so unnatural. Because it's like, why are you so obsessed with creating something that is just meant to cause as much damage as possible? Like, do you know what you're doing? And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to blame Galen Erso, because I think by the time he really realized what was happening, he was already, like, he had cold feet. Right. And I think he was actually very lucky to essentially get out when he did, even though that meant his death, because he didn't have to watch the Death Star destroy Alderaan. Right. And I think that would have genuinely broken him, because that's not the type of person that he was.
I mean, that's one of the dramatic tensions in Rogue One is here's Galen, he's a hero of the rebellion, but he's being treated as a traitor because they don't know, and they need, you know, I mean, Cassian almost offs him, right? He's like, no, he's the one who actually connected the dots with the Kyber power and Kyber energy and making that super laser, and so clearly he's a traitor. It's only it's only Jin and ultimately Cassian and the crew of Rogue One that believes believes Jin, well, because of her father, right? That they're able to actually get away and get the plans to Leia ultimately. It's kind of it's interesting leap of faith that says no wait. To your point though, you know, it's a question of the damage to the galaxy, the fact that it's even conceivable, right? The fact that a hydrogen bomb is conceivable. I think Oppenheimer tried to get into this. I don't know how successfully it did, but he tried to get into this. You know, the fact that, you know, what does it say to, you know, our society, about our society, and not so much that we want to blow things up. It's that we want to innovate without considering consequences. I mean, that's I mean, other things that cause similar damage, right? I mean, the Industrial Revolution and the steam engine and even electricity and you know, of course, non-renewable sources of energy. All these things, you know, we're using electricity right now, and they use things that do have a social good to them, but we just keep innovating upon innovating rampantly, and without stopping to consider the meaning and the effect it has on our minds and our bodies and our communities. And that's the question. I mean, and then the big thing, you know, in the last few years is AI, right? And I'm not there are obviously the legitimate real concerns about, you know, stealing creativity and assuming creativity when it can't, but you know, and there are good uses for it.
Medical sciences, mathematics, you know,
but also it's being used to calculate where to drop those bombs, right? It's also a problem. And so even thinking about the fact that going back to Catalyst and how, okay, the Separatists had already gotten there. Separatists, largely, I guess the Techno Union, but also the Trade Federation. Again, they're the Trade Federation are the ones with the spherical, with the bad guy balls, the spherical, these spherical ships that Anakin has to fly into, kind of like how Luke has to fly into, and Lando flies into. There we go, it rhymes. That but the fact that the Separatists, the other thing, the Separatists didn't necessarily care to destroy Coruscant. They just wanted to make sure Coruscant would leave them alone.
Yeah.
But those kinds of tensions build up to the point where we're innovating, and so the Geonosians say, "Okay, well, let's make this thing, make this Death Star," and then of course they get enslaved. They're the first to get enslaved, and then they're the first victims of genocide because they have the secrets, right?
Yeah.
Of the Death Star. Rebels goes into that. Vader comic goes into that, but also again, Catalyst goes into that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we see them get into that in Andor season 2 as well.
That'd be crazy. Poggle the Lesser in Andor.
But because here's the thing, we know that again, there are so many things that the Empire tried to keep secret, right? Because they also, on the opposite hand of that, did other things so incredibly loudly. Yeah. Right. It's the same as, oh, look, 40 atrocities. So you don't focus on this other thing that we're doing. Right. And, so Christophsis, Alderaan, all of these other places, they were big. They were big spectacle. The Gorman massacre.
Yeah.
Huge. The Geonosians, they wanted to keep that one quiet because of the fact that they had the secrets. This is a hive mind society, right? And also within because we kind of already figured most of this, but from the Mask of Fear, we have more information on the way that a lot of Republic loyalists and separatists still did not see eye to eye. There was a lot of anti-separatist sentiment and rhetoric that the administration wanted to happen, that definitely would have led to a lot of people being like, well, I don't give a fuck if this planet of bugs was destroyed or all these bugs were destroyed, because that's exactly how they would have seen them, right? That is how they are portrayed to us. There's a reason that they're non-human and they're the first victims, because we're not going to notice that. And I think that, once we get to a point where somebody like Mon finds out about this, she is going to, because she has these rather strong ties with a lot of separatists, and she, can work with them and come to arrangements with them, she is going to be even more fervently speaking out against these atrocities because she's already failed so many other times. And there was nothing that she could do, right? It's one thing to blow up a Trade Federation ship that's full of battle droids, and it's another thing to blow up a planet full of people, right? Killing battle droids versus even killing clones.
Yeah. One's
sentient, the other is not, right? However, both are made for war. So it's just it's one of those things that you kind of have to go into with all of these questions about technology and the way that we use it and the way that we innovate. Because it's because there's the idea of oh, well, if you believe in this cause, you will be willing to die for it, right? Or you can create an army of people. But on the other hand, you have the separatists who are primarily using battle droids, right? And it's just okay, corporate sponsorship of the separatists was a big issue, but it also makes, in my mind, their cause look a little bit less legitimate, right? Even though the separatist cause is very legitimate. I understand where they are coming from. I think they were held back primarily because of the corporate sponsorships that they had.
Sure.
The Separatists were basically a freaking car in a NASCAR race. That's how many corporate sponsors they had. And
that's good.
I think one of the other big things, one of the big questions that comes from things like the Death Star is the downfall of genius, which is we spend so much time thinking about, can we do this, that we don't stop to think, should we do this? Right. And that's why I think ethics is so important within science as well. And that's a discourse that you get in, that you can see all the time within, like, between STEM people on the internet, where they're just like, I don't understand why why humanities classes and ethics classes are so important. I'm like, you need those more than most people, you guys.
Yeah.
Because your fields matter so much that you can literally obliterate all of us with your brains. And you don't want that, I don't think. So
yeah, I mean, or business ethics, right? But the problem is business ethics is just problem is that they're a little part one required class within a larger framework of how to make money. But again, to the point where it's this corporate oligarchy that is developing this super weapon. Ultimately, we have to mention the fact that both sides are being played by the Sith. So there's that.
100%.
There's that. So it's still all part of Palpatine's plan.
Yeah.
We think about Gorman, we think about Alderaan. On the latest Ion Canon podcast, Joel and I were talking about Gorman, and how it speaks to just how far gone the galaxy had become, how racist effectively had become.
Yeah.
In that, Geonosians, like you're saying, squish a planet of bugs, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
But once Gorman happens, which we'll see, we don't quite know yet, but once Gorman happens, once Alderaan happens, that's, the Empire thinks they're stamping out rebellion. What does Leia say right before Alderaan is destroyed? The more you tighten your grip, the more star systems slip through your fingers.
Yeah.
And that gets back to Nemec's point, right? That that's the moment the galaxy finally wakes up and says, no, we can't tolerate this. So many other star systems, so many other species rally to the rebel cause. They do become they're at the the point of Empire Strikes Back, when they're in Hoth, they're at their weakest, but they're also at their most unified. And and we go into things like the Hope Dies arc in comics, where that's they come together and then they're dispersed. But clearly, there's this Alderaan becomes the great overreach, and the Death Star becomes this great overreach where they become the instrument of their own demise as well, and ultimately, and so you're going back to the Thrawn, at least those TIE fighters are more subtle. Star Destroyers aren't exactly subtle, but they're mobile. There's only one Death Star. What can you do? The instruments of its own demise. That's another thing to say is, it's not like the Shattered Empire of the Mandoverse that I doubt they're gonna, find a third Death Star or something. I know one of them is gonna go off and take Ilum to become a Starkiller base, but I talked about the effect of communities and the effect of our sense of a common good, right? And this relegation of ethics to just this thing we have to do. Basically greenwashing is another part of this. Just think we have to do to look good, but ultimately we're going to cut corners to make money, do what we can. It ultimately, the creation of a dog eat dog world and dog eat dog society is, it's why North America is behind. It's why the United States is so behind in so many metrics. Why their education system was already lagging behind because it's built on who can pay the most to get into the better quality education.
Yeah.
Even now that the folks who can pay the most are now going to have to go to other countries because their education system is being dismantled. It makes for a weaker society, oddly enough, weaker, less competitive society if you are all about what I can get for me and mine, and not having a vision for the wider world. And so that is why the rebellion, with its vision of restoring the republic, coming together, restoring democratic norms, versus this empire that is very much sort of claiming, here's the wild thing, claiming to be about meritocracy, and the best person gets ahead, but it's really who can trick their superiors into being the best person get ahead. And the same empire that thinks, oh yeah, here's a good idea, build this massive super laser weapon, is ultimately defeated because it's and even the first order, the final order at the end, right? This people's fleet coming together, because if you actually invest in people first versus profit first, you're going to get more people behind you, more buy-in. And so, that's kind of, I'm not trying to paint a utopian vision here. I'm just saying the power of communities to actually build people up and create dialogue. I think the fact that Europe, standard of living in a lot of parts of Europe is so much better. In Japan, where you're going to go, that they just have by far more community-based society. They're liberal democracies. It's not some sort of socialist totalitarianism, but they definitely care about investing in public infrastructure and public works and culture and art and music more so than we do. And there's no wonder that their standard of living, and they're just happier people generally, I think. So, it's funny we talk about this super laser. We're getting all over the place.
No, because here's the thing, there's a reason that the Death Star keeps coming up within Star Wars stories. It's because it's been a touchstone for 48 years. Since the first movie, we've had context for the Death Star. We're like, this is a fixed point, essentially. It's canon event. We can't stop it from happening. But it is so crucially important, because even looking at, say, the High Republic, and you're like, how the hell do we get from that to the Death Star in less than 300 years? But it's like, oh, can we look at our society and ask the same thing? How do we get from the steam engine and trains in one century to basically atomic bombs in the next century?
Literally the next century. 100 years.
And so it's just like, oh, that galaxy is moving technically somewhat slower technologically than we are, and that's a good thing, because we have been moving way too fast. We could be at space lasers that kill planets, right? If you're Marjorie Taylor Greene, you already think that that's happening, right? With your weird space laser conspiracy theories, but
literally called Star Wars.
Literally.
That shield.
It's so fascinating the way that, it's just it's a space opera, it's a space fantasy, there are elements of science fiction in it, but the part of it is that science fiction is based in the extrapolation of what scientific fact looks like. And we have atomic bombs. Yeah, exactly. We have atomic bombs. We're not that far off from basically glassing our own planet. We could do it. That's what World War III would probably look like, us glassing our own planet, right? And so I see things like, again, another planet that was glassed, Mandalore is also in some ways a cautionary tale, right? It's just like, if you keep doing this, this is what this is what's going to happen to your world. We already have so many places that have been devastated by war. Do we need to or want to make that worse? What do we get? Like, where do we benefit? There, you know?
Well, and you mentioned High Republic, right? So, I mean, that's fascinating to think about. You know, we are all the Republic. You know, when Lena So is saying it, you know, we know she means, yeah, and you contribute your unique culture and heritage and history, and you can be proud of it. And then we come together and we share across these differences. But then what if you don't want to be all the Republic? And are you going to just peaceably exit yourself and separate or just not be part of it? Or are you going to throw up a storm wall and throw up a fit and attack the very fair and the very space stations representing representing this symbol of, or, you know, this idea of coming together as one galactic society that does respect and does celebrate differences. But as I mentioned, fast forward 200 years, those tensions between center and periphery, between commonality and difference, we struggle with those kinds of dynamics. We struggle with those nuances. We think everything either has to be uniform or everything has to be so disparate and ghettoized in our own little pockets and corners. And that, you know, I mean, this is our world now. You know, there's a book that came out in the 90s called Jihad versus McWorld, and globalization versus territorialization, tribalization. And yeah, that's this amazing thing where, you know, again, George Lucas implying this story more so in 2002 than in 1977, how it's the group that still wanted to say, yeah, we want to be free to go off and make our own money as much as we want, while also, of course, folks like Nina what's her shoot
Bonteri,
that one. Bonteri saying, well, actually, let's we know our own locality, we know our own planet better, so let's be free to support our own common good in our own planet better. But it was ultimately funded by folks who would want to, you know, be free to make our own money, are the ones that actually developed, invent this super laser, super weapon. Again, funded by the Sith, supported by, you know, puppets of the Sith. But those tensions, those you know, that cause of isolationism and separatism, and then conformity on the imperial side, enforced conformity, become the driving factor that we don't stop and ask, okay, should we be doing this? Yeah, of course we should be doing. How dare you question that? That's unpatriotic, right? Are we not all the Republic? You know? Are we not the separatist, the Confederacy of Independent Systems? You know? So yeah, definitely, you know, the fact that, you know, the Death Star came about during the Clone Wars, the atom bomb came about during World War II. How to stop a fascist, except the fascists had already been stopped. And that's something that Oppenheimer goes into, is the fact that Hiroshima happens after the surrender. Didn't really need to be dropped. Didn't need to be dropped at all, and therefore didn't need to be developed in the first place.
It's once again, the downfall of genius is always something very fascinating to me. Because, you know, so many of the greatest geniuses who have contributed good to the world have also contributed a lot of not great things. Einstein, exactly.
And Oppenheimer himself, right?
And but I think that these stories do need to be told, because I don't like necessarily, like, I'm okay with talking about like cautionary tales in fiction, kind of, but the idea of like this person who like lived and had a real life, them being like a cautionary tale kind of feels wrong to me. But I think that, you know, Oppenheimer kind of would acknowledge that what happened with him is a cautionary tale, right? The pilot of the Enola Gay, which I'd like to point out, that plane, the one that dropped the atomic bomb, has been wiped from the Department of Defense's like databases and everything because it has the word gay in it. Like, that is censorship of your own history. And in censoring that specifically, you are also ignoring, like, you as America, like the American government is also trying to hide from the fact that it dropped these bombs, right? Like, you cannot have it both ways. You cannot be like, yes, we're going to do this. We're going to say that we stand by it to end the war, and we're going to kill millions of people. We're going to have people who live in Japan today who are still impacted by that, right? Either they were alive when it happened, or they're like 1 or 2 generations removed and they're living with the effects of what happened there. But also at the same time, it's like, well, the plane's name has the word gay in it, so that needs to be erased. Because then you also get into there were lots of women and people of color and queer people who are also being erased from history. And it's like, shouldn't you be respecting that? But it's very clearly historical revisionism, which you also see the Empire practice as well, right? Because it's like, we know the truth about why they blew up Alderaan. We know the truth about why they did the things that they did. We know the truth about what Palpatine did that made Mace and the others go to his office and try to arrest him. They were not there to kill him. They were there to arrest him, right? We know the truth of that, but now it's just so much propaganda, right? And the Death Star is a tool for propaganda, because after the destruction of it, you know, you can point to the rebels and be like, see, they killed all of the people who were on this. We built this to keep you safe. Right? And that seeks to delegitimize the Alliance to Restore the Republic, the Rebel Alliance, right? Which they needed to do because recently it had become very legitimate, right? In Christy Golden's Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad book, there's a part where I can't remember who is talking to Iden, but they're saying like, hey, you joining the partisans gives us legitimacy because you are coming to us as a former Imperial. This is similar to like when Mon Mothma and Leia Organa fully publicly endorsed the Rebel Alliance, and Mon Mothma became the leader of the Rebel Alliance. It gave them legitimacy. So the Empire is trying to destroy that, right? And the Death Star is a tool for that.
Yeah, that's definitely an aspect of it. I think it was could have been Lux Bonteri who's talking.
I think it could have been Lux Bonteri.
Bonteris. Both Bonteris coming up here.
I prefer Mina.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I almost wonder. George is this clever. If that little bit of the Death Star, you know, again, Attack of the Clones comes out May 2002. So that means it's in post-production after September 2001. You know, I mean, this is a wild, tragic thing. I'm not talking about the actual tragedy, the actual people.
Yeah, we're talking about the aftermath of it.
The way it was used to say, look, I mean, our corporate power is what's keeping you safe. Look at all these folks who have destroyed our corporate, or have made an attack on our corporate power. Let's go bomb them now. You know, and then of course let's go invent this fiction of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which wasn't there, obviously. this, it's funny, yeah, the propaganda war, once the Death Stars destroyed, the propaganda
Yeah.
wars on. Yeah, it could have been touch and go. The rebels actually end up winning it.
Yeah.
Winning that propaganda war.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure, yeah, there were probably a lot of Imperials who are all these terrible terrorists, right? These horrible terrorists. How dare they kill all these people? And then leave it to Kevin Smith to be all, well, they weren't necessarily innocent, contractors. They choose,
yeah,
they choose their projects properly, consciously.
Yeah. And we also we can kind of see that firsthand with characters like Ellie and Zara and her damaged Star Destroyer that is in and of itself a symbol. She names it Tarkin's Will for a reason, right? She knows the power of what she is doing. She was taught this by Tarkin, her mentor, right? And she knows that, he was originally a Republic war hero. He was a governor of Eriadu. He was the Grand Moff of the Outer Rim, and he was a very polarizing person as well. You either loved him or you hated him, right? And it wasn't consistent, right? Because you would have Imperials who staunchly hated him and did not get along with him, and you'd have Imperials who loved him, right? Separating the Krennics from the Zaras. And that is also incredibly important, the way that symbols are utilized and the way that specifically in the post 9/11 landscape, a lot of Americans will be like, we were so unified as a country and we all stood together and all of these other things. And it's just like, okay, ask a visibly Arab person, ask that woman in the hijab over there how she was treated post 9/11, right? And it's very similar to the we stood together, but there was that outside group that we blamed and we ostracized and we wanted to see die. And I hate to bring this up. Oh, after the Clone Wars ended, we all stood together behind our emperor and everything was okay. But we were okay with this peace that we had. And it's all right that we lost the Jedi to achieve it.
Right.
And that's a central theme in The Mask of Fear. Like it all, like that whole era is just a cluster of like that 20, 25, 30 years is literally insane for this galaxy. It's so much happening all at once, and that is the point. That is what they were trying to do.
It's shock and awe on the whole galaxy.
It
was a few things thinking about the Organas here. That Zara, her main rival in this in that storyline, Charles Soule thinking this through, is Leia, who of course whose planet Tarkin blew up in a massive gesture, right? And so Zara, knowing the power of gesture, but that it's Leia who is the one to find her. Of course, also Kestamar, not Kestamar, Shara Bey, primarily. Kes, he helps, but Shara is the main one there. There we go. But also, and thinking about with Mask of Fear, we talk about revisionist history. That's another big shock and awe of the power of Palpatine's power to turn people against the Jedi, who for over 1,000 generations were the guardians of peace and justice. I mean, that's one of the things I love the most about High Republic is we see so clearly how beloved and trusted and trustworthy the Jedi are in this time, and how much integrity they have in that era. Of course, he's on this path, this 200-year path to ultimately, I don't want to say full on corrupt their soul, but entrap them in this circumstance where they can be part of this more corrupt endeavor called the Clone Wars. Alexander Freed definitely teasing that out of how the Jedi were the guardians. I mean, this is bringing back to our topic, right? that oh no, that the Jedi are now this whole fabricated record of propaganda of the Jedi are they're out to join the Separatists, and they're gonna destroy the Senate and just take over. That's the very thing, of course, that the Empire does through the Death Star, right?
Yeah.
And so, instead of the Jedi being the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, the Death Star becomes the guardian of peace and justice in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Which is ironic. I mean, Vader himself would say, "Don't be too fond of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy the planet isn't consequential next to the power of the Force." But he also knows that the power, that the power of the Force depends on the power of the light side, at least, depends on a whole order of Jedi that he used to be part of, actually going around the galaxy in their diversity, in their unity, not uniformity, unity. And here is this new technological terror that is aimed to enforce uniformity. Ultimately, again, it's a Skywalker who ends up taking it out. It's Skywalker, it's his children who end up being the ones who can be more attuned to the Force and restore the balance. And then it's Rey who takes the name Skywalker, and Anakin's grandson Ben who comes together and also restores the balance. But it's the Force, because this is to say the Death Star is this embodiment of the dark side, and it's all-encompassing will to power. There's Nietzsche for you, and Nietzsche probably wouldn't. He gets a bad rap, but the way he gets used later on by certain fascist governments, that clearly it's the Force itself that becomes the Death Star's undoing. And, through Galen, of course, the kyber crystals, they're Force sensitive. They're Force gobbledygook. But of course, Luke used the Force. Luke, his ability to gather and inspire the galaxy to rebellion and to resistance. So good on Alexander Freed for even starting that little check in there. So
I think the Death Star is so fascinating.
I didn't expect it to go all of these directions, but
I feel like it's a weird little web that it's like instead of Jar Jar, like everything's connected to Jar Jar Binks. So many things are connected to the Death Star, and I think that's a good thing because it has all of this impact, right? And the fact that it keeps coming back in some form or another really goes into, you can't kill an idea, right? Except in this case, the idea is WMD, and WMD support fascism. Let's build WMD.
Well, more to the point, I'm saying it was brilliant by George, and I mean based on Kurosawa and others, but this brilliant using this incredibly salient symbol for evil. This really versatile mobile symbol. Not literally, I mean, yes, it's literally mobile, but a very powerful symbol for us to understand what evil is, what evil does and wants, what the corrupting influence of power is. And so as this foil to what freedom and truth and goodness is. And so another example of George's genius using the power of myth, because that's the thing, it's a mythical symbolic image. Fascinating.
So why did you want to talk about the history of the Death Star, or just the Death Star as a concept?
Again, at first it was because it bridges the saga. It has Attack of the Clones and Catalyst and Thrawn. So get into the paper canon of it. But yeah, it turns out I wanted to because it kind of has all these salient the salient weight, the semiotic weight. I can use a very technical term. It's a very powerful image that drives story so brilliantly, and in a way that I mean, so much cinema is now derivative of it, including other Star Wars stories, but also is really fascinating. Also, maybe because it's Lent, so I want to talk about something evil. I don't know. Why not?
Is there anything else we want to get into when it comes to the Death Star? Or have we gone on enough tangents about how...
I don't think we've gone on tangents, Ash. I think we've gone on modes of on pathways of meaning that are opened up by this, again, very flexible, nimble image that George gave us.
And our big, beautiful brains just
that too.
Guiding us on that journey. What are you most looking forward to in Andor Season 2?
I am most looking forward to, you're going to appreciate this. I'm looking forward to, the way it goes into ideas of power and justice and revolution. That in the way it can speak to our moment and our time of of rising authoritarianism, not just in one country but throughout the world.
Let's hope that we do not relate to it.
True, but
I don't want to be hurt even more.
And I will say that the second thing I'm looking forward to, and you'll appreciate this, I'm looking forward to everything in the Senate with our favorite senator from Chandrila. And everything. Just getting an inside look at that, because we don't get enough of that, and you'll agree with that. We don't get enough of. That's another thing that I love about Mask of Fear. It's one of the great political books of Star Wars, and going into legislation and parliamentary maneuvering and all that I find fascinating. For it to go into that and then to see, that ultimately is incapable of stopping the atrocity of the Empire. And so what of rebels are we going to see in Andor? Are we going to see how much of secret cargo are we going to see in Andor is what I'm curious about.
Secret cargo, my favorite rebel story. She's so precious. That's little Genevieve voicing her.
Oh yeah.
They brought her back. Who is your favorite original Andor character?
My favorite original Andor character. It's a good question. I know you prepped me at the top, but I forgot to think about it. For some reason, I'm going to Bix.
Okay.
I don't quite know why.
Good answer. Not loving Bix is wrong. So everyone should love Bix.
And it isn't just because I'm a straight dude. Although Adria, she's an attractive woman. But
she's gorgeous, stunning.
Maybe, I am fascinated by the tension that we're going to see in season 2 between, a love story on the one hand and the war on the other. We did get that with,
Valencinta?
Yeah, Valencinta. Yeah. We got that a little bit. We're going to get that with the main character. We're going to get that with Andor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also, just her strength and her resilience.
Yeah.
In such a very rough context, and not just the torture. Even before on Ferrix. she's strong and she's tough and she's kind and she's aware and intelligent and yeah, definitely. Yeah, someone I admire and appreciate.
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought of that too far before, but yeah.
Yeah. Bix is a good answer. We stand Bix Colleen.
Yeah.
Who is your least favorite original Andor character? Who do you hate?
Least favorite original Andor character. Like, as in, because it's hard. Because I mean, do I think they're all well done? I mean, I like how annoying Cyril is. You know, I like that. Can I just say the whoever ends up arresting arresting Cassian on the Miami planet, that was so frustrating.
Oh, Sam Witwer?
Or the judge. Yeah.
Oh.
No. Who my least favorite original? Maybe I don't know. Because that's the thing is, there's the Scottish guy that Cyril
Sergeant Mosk.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Again, but I don't dislike him. It's just, I don't know. It's funny. He's funny. I don't know. Yeah. No. Here's the thing. The cringy crush that Cyril has on Deidre, which is, again, it's funny. It's interesting. It's amusing that they're throwing this in.
The way that he doesn't know how to talk to women and she doesn't know how to talk to people.
Yeah. So
it's pretty great.
It's hard because and that's it. I don't dislike them. It's just how do I answer my least liked, I guess.
Yeah. Because like, again, I think that everyone in this show is really well written. And even the characters that you're like, you suck. You're like, you're so well written that you are fascinating to me.
Yeah. I mean, even oh gosh, again, blanking on Mon Mothma's daughter's name.
Oh, Lita.
She's
a kid though. She's supposed to be like that.
I love that her teenage rebellion is to go hyper traditionalist.
Yeah.
That's the thing that happens in the real world. Let me
it's like, hey, I'm gonna be a trad wife, and mom's just like, fine, it's gonna help the rebellion though. Yeah. I will find a way to make this worth it. Yeah. What is your favorite thing about Mon Mothma?
Her ability to calculate.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
She's not good at basic math, but thinking 5 steps ahead, she's good at that.
Like political calculation, but that she's using it for the good of the galaxy. Because we have stories, folks like, say, Darth Plagueis, Palpatine, we admire their brilliance, but we know they're using it for evil.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, doing James Luceno, Darth Plagueis is one of the great stories.
Yes.
But Mon Mothma, she's also 5 steps ahead and just sensitive and aware to know what everyone wants and just how to move them along. Her political genius, something that stands out to me. Obviously her integrity, I'm fascinated by the compromises to her integrity that she has to make.
Yeah.
But it's that's why I'm really looking forward to in season 2, seeing that political genius on display in the Senate. Yeah. And then seeing the limits of even that, right?
Yeah.
The limits, and say, no, I have to resign my seat. I have to go.
Yeah.
And fight this rebellion.
She knows when it's time to go. Yeah. She's a Swiftie. She's an Evermore girly.
There we go.
Evermore.
Look, you missed my coaster. There you go. I'm a folklore guy, in case people
Mon has a lot going on in her head. Good. So of course she loves the Evermore album.
Yes.
My Discord name is Mon Mothma's Sad Girl Autumn for a reason.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's why I connect with her, because she is not so. I mean, she's very clever, but she's not so kind that she forgets to be clever, and not so clever that she forgets to be kind. Which is, of course, my favorite Taylor Swift song. Period.
Oh,
so,
Marjorie.
there
I
we
got
go.
to see that live, and I was not okay.
Yeah, no, I bet.
A song that like I couldn't listen to for the longest time, like 6 months after it came out, because my Nana had passed.
Sure.
And then it was just like, I was like, yeah, I can totally handle hearing Taylor perform this live in the country that my Nana was born in,
Right.
a place where I feel even closer to her. Nope, I was in tears.
Yes. In case viewers are wondering, we're massive Swifties.
Yes. It's almost like we've done Taylor Swift panels together or something.
We have? What?
That's weird.
Yes.
Who would do that?
I know, right? There we
go. Yeah, I like what you said about the compromises to her integrity, because, you know, so many politicians especially would be like, yeah, whatever, you know, and just do it. Mon genuinely like thinks about it.
Yeah.
And she, you know, has to weigh these things very heavily, because they are not like, she knows that her actions don't exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Which is very important, I think, especially for a politician who has the level of power that she does.
Sure.
Even though the Empire, her power is much lesser, but she understands her role. Yeah.
Is it willing to, am I willing to take a hit to my soul for this?
Yeah.
Similar to Luthen, but never, I mean, Luthen is, again, a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
To what, in a different way, what Mon could become.
Yeah.
I don't think she'd become the kind of spy operative part of the operation, but, you know, she could become, I mean, that's the thing. Masamita, that's another, in Mask of Fear, a bit of a spoiler for Mask of Fear here, offers her a Moff position, right? Become a governor, and she could have taken it. She could have been, she was smart enough to be in Palpatine's inner circle if she wanted to be.
Yeah.
Or she could have gone off into the sunset with Lud and taught at a university and stayed out of the business and stayed
coaching Smashball.
Yeah, stayed out of trouble. She does neither.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and to say maybe Gorman is the last straw, is to say, I've taken too many hits to my integrity.
Yeah.
I have to go and almost, you know, a tone kind of go in a pure route. Of course, that's still violence, right? That's the thing. It's the Rebel Alliance. It's still
paramilitary organization.
Yeah, and so there's still going to be. I mean, that's the thing with Andor, especially looks at the darker side that, of course, the Skywalker saga doesn't, because it's a different kind of story for a different audience and a different time. And I'm not. Obviously, you know, I do think I do prefer the kind of the gleaming citadel of the Skywalkers to you know the compromises of Luthen and Saw. Yeah. But interesting how Mon is in between the two, and also another thing that makes her so fascinating. So, yeah, I know I'm preaching to the preacher here, but
I know, yeah, okay,
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Everyone loves telling me the things that they love about Mon. Mon haters do not interact with me. I'm allergic
because they don't exist. So
they shouldn't exist.
They shouldn't exist.
Some people still have rancid takes on the internet. I'm like, and that's a block.
Yeah. I mean, it's the internet. The internet isn't a real place.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like,
as we're conversing over the internet, but
you know. Exactly. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
Bestie. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Go and plug your things that you would like to plug.
So main places I'm talking Star Wars on the internet. The Ion Cannon podcast, and the Tractor Beam Comics reviews. Both of those are on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. So go to the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel and go under the live tab, and you'll be able to find both Ion Cannon and Tractor Beam. We're live. Ion Cannon is live at 5:30 p.m. Mondays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, every Monday for the most part. Tractor Beam, Ion Cannon, there we talk about conversations just like this, just deep dives, intellectual deep dives, going every which way. She's been on it quite a few times, and appreciate you will be on again, I promise.
If you need somebody for Andor, I'll be crashing out.
Oh yeah, we plans are afoot. There we go. Of course. So yeah, so please do check that out. And that was initially very much paper canon focused generally, and we still do that. So our Mask of Fear with Ash and with our friend Ellie, is our Mask of Fear review is on that, so go check that out. And then every Wednesday, Tractor Beam Comics reviews also on the Underworld podcast network, Underworld YouTube channel. Also, both of these are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So go search Ion Cannon Podcast and Tractor Beam Comics reviews. Every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we review the comic books that came out that day. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to coming up. What's coming up? Fear of the Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker adaptation. Number 2 is this week, whenever this episode drops.
This one's dropping tonight.
It's dropping tonight. So tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Fear of the Jedi number 2 and Rise of Skywalker adaptation number 2, and the Insider short story from Insider number 230.
Yes.
Keep it up with the Adrens there. So please do check that out. You can follow me. I'm still on the Bird app at NEUG45. I'm also on. I know. But I'm also on the photo app, MNEG1138 and beaches.foodie. And I am on the Butterfly app at MNEG1138 on Blue Sky.
The Raylo app.
MNEG1138 there. Also, can follow on Blue Sky. Ion Cannon is where our partner in crime Joel mostly posts there. But please do check that out. And lastly, we did do a third Taylor Swift panel, and it is in the works. It's edited, just a few more things to do. Get that up on YouTube, and so we will let everyone know where that is. That was one of the I don't want to say, was it a highlight of, definitely the highlight of Toronto Comic Con 2025, but
that and Manny Santos panel, those two things. That was all that happened for me.
But up there, I'm really, really happy with how that panel turned out.
As am I.
We really got communicated really well. Taylor Swift on screen. Her screen roles, her film roles, SNL, and her music videos, and all too well, her brilliant film. So yes, please do check that out whenever it drops.
And you and I will never not be able to do a Taylor Swift panel at Toronto Comic Con or Fan Expo. That's all they want from us, apparently.
We do apply for Star Wars ones, but
we do apply for Star Wars. For August, I am probably going to put in a Hunger Games one.
Nice.
But beyond that, we're pretty much probably guaranteed to get our Taylor Swift.
I mean, we've filled the room 3 times now. It's the only one. That's the thing. It's so unique. It's different. But hopefully building up a bit of a reputation there. Thank you, Informa and Fan Expo.
So Reputation, Matthew and Ash's version.
There we go. It's gonna come out before Rep TV. I hope not.
Maybe one day we will get Reputation and debut Taylor's version, but today's not that day.
There's another one. Taylor Swift and Star Wars.
Yes.
How are we gonna?
Yes.
We got to figure that one out.
Taylor Swift writes music for Star Wars.
Sure.
The same way that she legitimately wrote music for the Hunger Games,
or like, because on TikTok you see all these crossovers, right?
Yes.
And the photo app, the Meta photo app.
Think about Leia Organa and the bridge of My Tears Ricochet from Folklore.
Or Anakin and Padme in The Prophecy. Yeah. There we go.
Or Mon Mothma and Ash checks playlist. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Sure. Are you really?
I'm not kidding. One's like, oh my god, this song is about me. And Brea's like, this song is called Slut. And she's like, and you know what the Empire thinks of me.
Yeah. No, but it's a nice song. It's a good song.
It's a good song. I accidentally was wearing my bracelet that says slut on it at work yesterday.
Oh, no.
And also my Everwhore one. And I was like, thankfully I took them off before serving any guests.
Good.
It was very funny.
Yeah.
So, yes, but speaking of Taylor Swift, kind of, my handle on social medias is Bejeweled Mothma, Bejeweled like the Taylor Swift song, and then Mothma, like Mon Mothma,
What?
because
Is that who it's named after?
best believe she's still bejeweled. When she walks in the room, she can make the whole place shimmer. And she's going to prove it again in Andor season 2. And then also Mothma updates, which, I mean, yeah, my main page, I talk about Mon Mothma a lot, but Mothma updates is just for Mon Mothma and Mon Mothma adjacent things. Like I will be crashing out over Andor for longer than 4 weeks, Tony, longer than 4 weeks. Yes, and my panel at Star Wars Celebration, just saying the words celebration and panel, I'm freaking out because the queue opens up in 7 minutes. And if I don't get into the Andor panel, it's over for me mentally. I'll still go.
Manifested it to the internet. There we go.
Please, please. I don't care. That's the only one I want to get into.
But you're also getting into a Mon Mothma panel.
Yes, because I'm hosting it on Friday at 4 p.m. on the fan stage. It's called Senator Rebel Chancellor Who is Mon Mothma. Come to it. I have a bag of goodies to give to you if you show up. More is going to be made. And then the business cards are going to get printed once I stop procrastinating on that. Yes, thank you once again, Matthew. It's always a joy to talk to you, whether it's virtually, in person, loudly in person.
In a blue sky chat.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
thank you also to viewers out there. Just please do not be operating motor vehicles and watching my videos. Again, lawsuits. I don't need that right now. Okay. I'm going to Japan in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Cannot afford the bad optics of that. I really hope, Matthew, that season 2 of Andor makes you happy. And I also hope that you join me in making Tony Gilroy incredibly happy by crying.
I'll do my best.
So, look, I'm about to make Tony Gilroy the happiest man in the world with how much I'm going to cry and crash out over this show. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and may the force be with you.
Always.
And also with you.